a new release. I'm so excited about this All-American CD, and I guess I'd start out asking about the late Elliott Carter, who almost made it to 104, and his music, his later music is just as energetic as his earlier music. Tell us a little bit about this new piece.
Well, Elliott Carter wrote a fabulous piece for the harp called Baryolage, and it just really encompasses a lot of different special effects, a lot of beautiful colors and timbres, but it's all combined in what I think is just a really original, interesting way. And you know, that is who he was. He was nothing if not original, and of course he was many, many things. But one of the quotes about Elliott Carter that I love so dearly is he said, you know, when you compose in your 90s, which is when this piece was written, not in the 90s, but his 90s, you cease to care whether anyone likes or even can play your music. And I just love that because, you know, Baryolage is, it's a pretty high level of difficulty. Not everything just lays right in the hand. So, you know, the harpist has to really figure out how to make things work. You know, there's a lot that doesn't meet the eye until you really, you know, get into it and get knee deep into making the music work and looking for, you know, the central idea and putting across the big picture rather than just focusing on all the little devices and all the little techniques. But I had a great time working on this piece, and you know, I thought of that so often when I was working on it. It's like, Mr. Carter.
Oh yeah. Well, I know a wonderful name that people will recognize from the movies is John Williams, and I was shocked to learn he turned 81 this year. I was like, holy cow! I can't believe it's, you know. And his music again is so energetic. Tell us, I didn't know he had a solo harp piece.
Well, he always uses the harp so amazingly in his movie scores, and this solo that I've got on the album is called the Lanes of Limerick. And it's actually a solo that he published as a separate entity from, taken from the movie score to the movie Angela's Ashes. And oh, it's just beautiful. And he wrote me a lovely note about the piece itself, talking about how he was trying to take some of the beautiful colors and folk elements of you know, the Irish musical culture and put it into this. But yet, you know, in the way all of his music is, he manages to suggest a culture, to suggest a way of you know, using music to express emotion, but he does it in such an original way. I mean, it's unmistakably John Williams, and yet you do get that lovely kind of old world Irish feel.
He's such a good chameleon sometimes for Prokofiev, or, you know, in jazz, you know, Catch Me If You Can makes me think, you know, so he does that sort of thing. And I know there's
incredible.
Awful runs in some of the Harry Potter scores, you know, and I've
and
heard.
his music from Schindler's List is like some of my all-time favorite stuff of all, and he used the harp gorgeously in that piece. I wish he'd extract some of that.
Yeah,
I'll
really.
play it in a minute.
Well, I know you've long been associated with the great music of Alan Hovhaness, who I adore, and is sort of this, you know, Northwest romantic. And if I were to think of a 21st century or late 20th century sort of romantic that lives in New York, is Lowell Liebermann, and he writes. Whenever he writes, I get goosebumps thinking about some of his scores. And it's neat that one of the pieces on here is a world premiere, right?
It is. It's a piece that Lowell Liebermann wrote very recently, 2011. And so I was able to get a hold of it in time to put it on this album. And it really, you're absolutely right in that it's kind of goosebumps music. And he does what he does so interestingly and creatively, and yet it's not exactly like anything you've heard before. There's a section in this piece that just, it's heart-wrenchingly beautiful, and it's a long piece. It's 15, 16-minute long harp piece. It's called Music for Harp, Opus 116, and I'm so honored to have it as a world premiere on this album, and you know, to have gotten to chat with him about it and you know, really delve into it and enjoy the music myself.
Yeah, he's a real gentleman. It's so nice
Isn't
to,
he?
yeah.
He really is.
Well, another new piece that folks may not know, but may know the name, is Hannah Lash, who also a wonderful composer. Tell us a little bit about this new work.
Well, Hannah Lash wrote a piece for solo harp called Stalk, and I thought it was really interesting not only to include music by a real, just an incredibly creative emerging composer, but also a woman composer as well, because the perspective is just slightly different, and the voice with the harp is a little bit different. I love this piece. I know I will play this piece many, many times. It really exploits both the sort of virtuosic qualities of the instrument and yet brings that incredibly vulnerable quality to the mix as well. And Hannah is just winning everything there is out there and doing amazing things right now. She teaches composition at Yale currently, but it's kind of an interesting story too, because she has a background in the harp. She herself is an accomplished harpist, and she got a bachelor's degree in composition from Eastman, and then decided she wanted to really exploit the harp as well as she could, and came to the Cleveland Institute of Music and got a master's degree in harp performance with me. And I'm always happy to goad and encourage harpists to compose. We need more of that. I think that's sometimes the best way to get music written for the harp is to somehow engage people with a fondness or a specialty in the instrument to write for, because they truly know what you can do on the harp probably better than anyone. So I'm really happy to include this piece.
Yeah, maybe we have a new Salzedo for the 21st century.
Very possibly.
Yeah, oh, cool. Well, last September, the world celebrated the 100th birthday of John Cage. I played 4 minutes and 33 seconds in my own arrangement, but...
not on the radio, I hope.
Not on the radio, I know.
It wouldn't
It wouldn't. It is on YouTube, though. We can... but he is one of those guys who is so creative. He was an artist, he was a composer, philosopher, and again, I didn't know there were any harp works, or maybe this, wow.
He wrote a really evocative piece called In a Landscape, and the piece is indicated for harp or piano, and I think that was, sort of a practical side showing through, because, composers have done that quite a bit, where, they want their piece to be played and they're afraid there aren't, going to be enough harpists around, so they make that caveat that if you don't have a harp, use a piano. It's a wonderful piece, and again, sort of in typical fashion, it explores that color of being static. It's very, there isn't at all a wide dynamic range. It's very lovely, very listenable, but at the same time, there's some repetition and some, it allows your mind to sit and contemplate a little bit. It's like 9 minutes long, so it's not a particularly short piece, but I enjoyed doing it, and from a technical standpoint, when you look at the music, it does not look like it would be that difficult a piece to render, but the difficulty there is in controlling the dynamic and controlling, sometimes you just really want to break out. But in this music, there really, it takes a lot of discipline to just keep it all in that range. And, it's one of those pieces that I think I will enjoy listening to myself. I got to say, I don't listen to my own recordings a lot, because I remember that day it was really hot, and then, then we had all that traffic noise, and, it's not stress-free for me. They have a spa satellite radio now, and on the rare occasion I go have a massage, without fail, I am lying on the table, just beginning to sort of loosen up, and one of my own things comes on the spa satellite radio, some Hovannes or something from my Quietude album, and it's like, oh, stop, turn it off. I don't want to hear it. This does not relax me.
Oh, man. Well, I was going to ask about, you recording. It's got to be nice to find these pieces and, to put them down. I imagine sometimes the process is you want to perform it, and you practice it, perform it, record it, and then when you have a CD, usually you go out and perform it, because and people want to hear, and I was going to ask a little bit about the journey. Is will the Williams change over time, or will you find new things in Lowell's piece that will go through, the journey probably doesn't stop even though you've recorded it?
Oh, absolutely. These pieces evolve greatly over time. And that's probably something musicians agonize over the most because, you're never, I don't know if anyone ever feels like they have explored everything in a piece. But then, when you lay it down on recording, that's kind of, it's stopped in time right there. So at some point you just got to get over it and say, you know what, this is a snapshot in time. This is where I heard and saw the piece in that moment. But I've been doing this for a really long time, 20 years of recording. So I have the dubious honor of recording things for a second time. I recorded the Debussy Sacred and Profane Dances for a second time a couple of years ago. I just recorded Ravel Introduction Allegro for the second time just last month. It's nice to be able to see, boy, that's where my head was 20 years ago. Here's where it is now, and it's decidedly different. And that's as it should be, But at some point, you're just going to lay it down where it is, and let it evolve from there.
Yeah. Well, Cage, Carter, Williams, Liebermann, Hannah Lash,
Paulus.
Stephen Paulus.
Right.
I forgot Stephen. Great Minnesota composer that folks may know some of his choral music. Mm-hmm. And he's a wonderful musician. How did he approach the harp?
Oh, he approached it beautifully. And the thing about all of this music that I love so much and why I think it works so well in combination with each other is that it's harmonically, it's also fresh. And I think all the tonal qualities of everything on this album just kind of comes together to give this really fresh, innovative kind of American sound, which when you listen to the whole album together, which, people don't listen to whole albums together nearly as much as they used to. And I always have enjoyed putting certain bunches of music together because I think music tends to kind of play off other music. And Stephen Paulus's piece has just a really fresh and kind of thought-provoking tonal language, and it just goes with the other music so well. It's actually part of a larger work he wrote for harp and orchestra, Divertimento. And I'm looking forward maybe to doing the whole work with an orchestra sometime in the near future. But it's a great addition to the album. And everything on this album is cool because it's originally written for the harp, and many people assume that the bulk of what the harp has available is transcriptions. Or of a very narrow period, sort of the French Romantic stuff. And, this is an album I wanted to do for so long because I get so tired of people saying, oh, the harp has no repertoire. The harp has plenty of repertoire, just doesn't get played nearly enough. So this is kind of a way to, spotlight and showcase just some of the gems we've got going on.
And maybe inspire another generation to write for the harp.
Oh, absolutely. That's ongoing. That's a big mission.
Yeah, wow. Well, we're looking forward to it. All-American Works coming out on Azeka. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you so much for the interest. Pleasure.